Hey everybody, Jonathan Broadbent here, your host of UnWoke.Academy and the Financial PMA. It is another weekly Wednesday edition. The Wednesdays, noon Eastern time, we look to go live on various different platforms. We're live right now on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and on Substack. The Substack thing is pretty new and cool. For a while, actually had to use different software to go live separately on Substack, but they've updated their software and we can do it all in one fell swoop. Every Wednesday, noon Eastern time, mark your calendar, and that is a good prompt to find us on social media. And don't forget to, of course, hit that like button. That helps the algorithm. It helps to get the message out to more people, grow our audience, and grow this movement. But also subscribe. Subscribe and hit that little notification button that lets you know when we go live. And it's pretty consistent. There are some intermittent videos. Actually, I've got one that we'll be releasing within the next day or two, called a Market Minute. We've got a Market Minute that is it's come out of an email newsletter that I get from something called Mark 37. Mark 37. Stay tuned for that one. But if you click that bell for notification, you'll see when we go live and when we release things. And it helps the likes and thumbs up and shares and all that stuff and comments, ask questions, of course. All of that helps the message to get out. If you have a question that comes from one of these podcasts that doesn't fit in public discussion, feel free to email me at Jonathan, Jonathan, at UnWoke.Investing.com. So you can see the spelling of my name there in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, Jonathan, no first H, at UnWokeInvesting.com. I'm going to kick things off by saying, wow, Facebook. We're on various different platforms. A few days ago, I released a post having to do with AI data centers and starting to track some of the names behind them. And oh my gosh, that post really took off. We've never seen anything like it from UnWoke.Academy. We have a pretty good following and tend to get some pretty good engagement, but nothing like this. So it tells me that that is a current, exciting, hot button subject for people. Keep it up. If you're not, by the way, if you haven't found us on Facebook and are not following, it is UnWoke.Academy on Facebook. You can find a page. I think actually at some various points we've set up both a page and a group. The page tends to be where most of the activity is, and you'll see a couple of posts there in sequence about these AI data centers. Well, I actually just logged in a little bit ago and happened to notice I logged into Facebook and was looking at our Unwoke Academy profile, and I see a post. I stumbled onto a post from Odessa, Texas. For anybody that's curious or doesn't already know this, I'm not in Texas. I'm actually in Ohio. And this post from Odessa, Texas Audit, or Odessa TX Audit, TX, or the abbreviation for Texas, is pretty interesting and right on point. The originator of this post, Odessa, Texas Audit, posts what's really going on with that big data center project in Ector County. You may have heard about a company called New Era Energy and Digital Incorporated, and they saw fit to include the ticker symbol, which is really helpful for people like me. NUAI. This is not investment recommendation. This is people like me that clearly think like I do and are starting to do their homework into the names behind the AI data centers. But I'll continue. You may have heard about a company called New Era Energy and Digital Inc. and their plan to build a massive data center campus here in Ector County. But here's what the press releases don't show: what we know. The company announced a major campus on 438 acres in Ector County, planned to eventually reach over 1 gigawatt of power. Just last month, April of 2026, They claimed to have secured over $115 million in funding. They also announced a partnership with a company called Primary Digital Infrastructure. I looked that one up. That one is not publicly traded. I do have, let's see, I do have some notes here. Primary Digital Infrastructure is an independent advisory and investment platform founded by industry veteran Bill Stein, David Ferdman, Peter Hopper, and John Shepardis. Well, that got me curious. Bill Stein sounded a bit familiar. So I looked up Bill Stein, and it turns out that Bill Stein has been around doing this sort of thing for a while. And according to an industry a search on Brave Search, Stein is a veteran of the data center industry, previously serving as the CEO of Digital Realty Trust. If that rings a bell, it's because that's one of the names mentioned in that release that we did several days ago, the one that has gone viral on social media. We drill down, and you'll see it listed under the name. I'll give you 1 second here. I'll give you the name of that post. I posted it under the header. Yes, of course, it's showing me that I'm going live. So you'll find it under the header data centers, the names behind them. Will some of these companies start showing up in your next IRA or 401k statement? It's very likely. That is what has captured attention. So that's posted on various different social media platforms. And in that video, several days ago, I happened to have focused on and cover Digital Realty Trust. So connecting the loop here, we've got this group from Odessa, Texas, who's saying, hey, what's going on with this new energy and digital Inc. and what's going on with Primary Digital Infrastructure, who appear to be connected to this deal happening in Texas. And a search finds connection between one of the key owners of one of the groups there in a private financial venture who happens to have a background as the what was his role? CEO of Digital Realty Trust, who we covered several days ago. It's starting to seem to me like there's some core group of players here who fill all kinds of different roles, and I'm going to guess are getting rich off of the proposition of building these. I call them a digital gulag, digital prisons. But getting back to this post, mentions primary digital infrastructure, but here's what's also true. A securities fraud lawsuit has been filed against the company. Investors claim they misled the public about their permitting progress. A short seller report on December 2025 said the company had not submitted required permits to Texas or New Mexico regulators despite telling investors otherwise. So it sounds to me, if this is true, like we have some people that are really rushing and trying whatever they can to move the needle and move and build AI data centers as fast as possible. So a lot of the public is catching on and are trying to act quickly to block the tax incentives, the abatements, all those sorts of things. And if you're like me, you want to move to try and block some of the funding as well. So again, referring back to the video that I released a few days ago, you may want to go back and watch that, and please do share it. The full video covers Equinix, which has a publicly traded symbol of EQIX. Again, these are not investment recommendations. This is a glimpse into some of the research that we're doing into some of the names behind the AI data centers. Digital Realty Trust, and again, that's the one that I mentioned, the former CEO from that appears to have gone on to this Primary Digital Infrastructure. That's where we can find him now. Applied Digital, which goes under the ticker symbol APLD, Iron Mountain, and an array of others. Go watch the video and you'll see the ones that we cover in that. But the objective here is to get more people talking. I don't want to stop people from talking about weighing the pros and cons and engaging in that debate about whether you like data centers or don't like data centers. Although I suspect that my conversation will probably be more interesting and appealing to the people who fall in the we don't like and we don't trust them camp. But my role and the objective that we've carved out here and have set our sights on is exposing the companies behind the AI data centers. I'm glad to see that groups like this Odessa, Texas audit, whoever that is on the same track and interested in doing the same thing. This, by the way, applies to all walks, all manners of life, and the things that we find frustrating in government and business. And anymore, it seems like the two are dramatically entwined in sometimes really bad ways. If we start digging into the money behind the scenes, and there's a lot to uncover there, we have found, and that it's common for we the people to report on the financial backers of our politicians. So when we look to representatives and wonder why they vote in favor of things that are sometimes dramatically harmful and counter to their stance prior to getting elected and things like it, we can find often that some of the companies that are looking to those politicians for favorable regulatory guidance or regulations are the ones that fund their campaigns. In a similar way, we find that there are governmental organizations, governmental agencies, and divisions that are giving tax incentives to megacorp, big corporations, sometimes the tax abatements for new builds, new infrastructure, new buildings and things like AI data centers. And the last piece of the puzzle in my book, and I think it's not covered nearly enough, is the bad actions of Wall Street. Wall Street taking and treating the trillions of dollars invested as if it's like some sort of slush fund to steer and engineer how we shape society. That, in my book, is at the core of that video I released a few days ago. There are, and again, bear with me if you've heard me say this before, but I keep saying it because I don't know if new audience grasps the size and scope of what we're talking about here. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, the three of them together, manage somewhere around $40 trillion. That's just three of the many, many money managers out there. If you look beyond that at the types of accounts that we Americans invest in, you've got 401k accounts, IRA, 403b, 457, et cetera, all kinds of different types of retirement accounts. Retirement accounts as a whole in the United States constitute around $46 trillion. 401k alone is around $13 trillion. When you talk about the ability of woke managers, Wall Street managers, to steer public opinion in their hand in glove with those media talking heads that talk about the next new frontier in investing and where your money should be invested, blah, 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 et cetera. You get those talking heads, and they're already out there. I see it a lot on financial networks and financial stations, the financial pundits, and some of the websites that people typically frequent. And yes, I do look at them quite a bit. That look at or make suggestions about where people should be investing. And that doesn't even get into the trading platforms, the places where you have your account. And of course, as soon as you open it up, always, I think it's ubiquitous. As soon as you open up to go and look at your investment account and see where things are, you're going to be hit with a screen that says the latest article fill in the blank. Here's the hot new trend in investing. And it is conspicuous to me at this point that virtually all of them are aligning now to steer public sentiment and public opinion into thinking that investing in AI data centers is going to be a good idea. But they all align at the same time in the same way and with the same messaging. At the same time that we have all of these types of groups building AI data centers, and many, many people throughout the public who are saying, whoa, wait a minute, let's tap the brakes here. I'm not sure I like this. I believe that we have an environment that is ripe for public sentiment disappointment. I'm trying to watch my words carefully here. I, I, I I believe that there is a tremendous amount of collaboration, and I've seen many examples of it before, between news media, the people that write and release these articles on the next new thing in investing, air quoting that, um, and the money managers and politicians. They the collaboration is outrageous and outlandish. So where we, the people, might like to assume that the people managing our money are out there objectively looking at good investments, if I'm right, and they are working in cahoots with the supposed news media and politicians to tell people in advance where they should be investing their money and then funnel trillions of dollars into funding the growth and expansion of these AI data centers, then ultimately, I don't care if you're pro or con, you should call foul. We should cry foul because that's not what Wall Street is designed for. By the way, as a related note, if we are overfunding something, and I've been making this argument for years about the woke funding all these woke managers who went to sustainable and DEI, which is critical race theory, rebranded, and ESG and all of that stuff. What that does is funnel money into very few names and make a few people uber rich while also ignoring real markets. Capital markets should be funding all kinds of different business venture. And if you're not funding them, then you're crushing capital markets, free economy, and future competition in one fell swoop. That's harmful, it's destructive, and it is not at all the way that that capital markets should work. By the way, I do have comments open. I just realized I was not toggled over to it. If you have any questions, feel free to post those on whatever platform you're on. I should see those. If I don't get to your question or you watch this after the fact, then a question occurs to you, you can email Jonathan at UnWoke.Investing.com. So, to put a bow around this, and then I'm going to wrap up, we have a growing number of people who are keenly interested in the names behind the names. So if you have an AI data center that's being proposed near you, and we have a tremendous amount of them, a ridiculous, outrageous amount of them proposed for Ohio. And Texas, I think, is in the same boat. Be asking the question, who are the names and the people behind the names of those standing to profit from these projects? Then, if you want to get really exciting about the investigations, look into the campaign finance reports of the people on the committees making the decisions about whether or not to rubber stamp and give the seal of approval to these types of builds. And yes, that does include local government as well. If you have city planners and county commissioners, city council, whoever it is, your local representatives in House and Senate, look into their campaign finance reports and see if you can find any of these names. As we uncover them, and again, going back to this one, just imagine, and this I'm going to illustrate using a hypothetical. The top name on this list from the video that we released a few days ago is Equinix. Well, imagine, and again, this is hypothetical, but imagine there's some big build taking place in Texas that's maybe 7,300 acres. That's one pops into my mind because it's one that I'm trying to keep track of. If there's a committee that forms to decide whether or not they should get the approval to build their 7,300 acre AI mega data center site, and if some of those politicians happen to have received campaign contributions from Equinix, and if Equinix is one of those companies on the list behind the scenes that's working on building the data center, then you've got some really uncomfortable dots that are connected that should arm local citizens with the ability, with the information to go in and challenge local representatives and your state and federal as well. That's how the game is played, and that's a big part of the reason I've taken it upon myself and the team here at UnWoke.Academy and the Financial PMA to call these things out. So go watch that video. This has been another weekly Wednesday live stream. Thanks for tuning in.